I talk to people in Wellington, if their property, they bought at the peak, it's down 30%. You now have lost 30% of your equity.
Why are we so emotionally tied to owning a home, and can renting really set you up to be better financially?
We obsessed with property. We believe that that's the way to get wealthy. That's the Kiwi dream.
You're saying you could be richer if you rent.
I just think that the blanket teaching of the sooner you buy a house, the better. Get on the ladder. Property always goes up. Those are three pieces that aren't true for everybody.
Luke Kemeys, a chartered accountant turned entrepreneur. He is the business advisor and co-founder of Next Advisory and the host of Keep the Change, a Kiwi podcast reaching thousands every week.
What's the most expensive mistake that you've made?
Probably not investing in myself earlier.
Business owners can track revenue, expenses and profits every month, but almost none track their personal net worth.
Financial progress is measured in your net worth. Assets minus liabilities.
You need to do that every single month.
Where am I actually at financially? Have I made progress from last month? 12 months later, when you feel like, I haven't really achieved much financially, my net worth actually increased by 13% or whatever. You're trying to get to Z without doing, the alphabet, and you're trying to get somewhere faster and find the cheat code.
I hear a lot of super rich people talk about using debt to finance your business. How do you use debt to get rich?
It can be very dangerous.
Why are we so emotionally tied to owning a home, and can renting really set you up to be better financially? You've talked about that being the Kiwi dream, and it may not actually be the true dream. We don't need the house. So what's the story?
Yeah, wow. This is such a tough one, and it could take an hour to answer. But I think what I've observed, growing up in New Zealand and watching is that we are obsessed with property, and it has been an easy way to build up wealth because money's losing its value, but we don't learn that bit. We just think, well, it always goes up, so that's just what we learn and we stay there. But once you start looking into why does property keep going up? Why is something that is becoming worth less going up in value? Then someone's like, it's because of land's going up in value. And you think, but other countries are just creating land, and we've created land in New Zealand and stuff, and we've got heaps of land. And so you just get stuck in these I think that's the answer. I just keep digging and going deeper, going, what's this all about? And I think that, we believe that that's the way to get wealthy, that everyone can do it, that's the Kiwi dream, and we've kind of just been marketed to with propaganda, let's say, of that. And I just came along being an entrepreneur going, that isn't for me. I don't want to be tied to a mortgage. I talked to people yesterday that live in Wellington, a few of them, that their property, they bought at the peak, it's down 30%. I'm like, well, how's the whole property never, goes down in value? Like, who taught you that? That was wrong. You now have lost 30% of your equity. And so now we've got this really confronting story where we're actually looking at it a little bit differently. But it's worked so well for so long for people. Then you've got if you rent, that's a waste of money. So we see paying rent as a waste of money. You're not getting anything back. Well, yeah, I guess I see where people are coming from with that again, but I just chose not to believe that. I don't see that paying my insurance is a waste of money because maybe I need to claim on it. But I paid for the fast lane at Movie World the other day. Is that a waste of money? Someone's going to have their own beliefs of all of this stuff. For most people, they've just been rammed down their throat. The belief should be that if you buy your home, you've done well, you're successful, Facebook will give you 500 likes and you'll get rich, and you don't have to work hard and it'll be easy. Well, of course humans are going to take the easy route, right? Yeah. And so it's worked well in New Zealand. But now here we are, with the overvalued property market. We've got people that have a negative equity post the blow up of the bubble, and you've got rotting houses, increasing rates, you've got increasing insurance, and baby boomers with all of their wealth tied up in property, and this sort of realization of, maybe that gospel or that teaching wasn't what we thought it was going to be. So a very confronting topic for New Zealanders, but something I get a little bit passionate about.
I love it. Please get passionate, because you're saying that people are missing opportunities if they don't buy a house. But you're saying you could be richer if you rent.
Yeah, well,
who is this good for? Like, is there a certain number of people, like kind or niche, that this would resonate with, so that we can pretty much, whoever is listening thinking this is for me, they'll keep listening to that. But who is this right for? Who's this advice right for? Is it everybody, or is it some people?
Well, if you think about it, somebody who isn't entrepreneurial, who will never want to increase their income, who doesn't have big dreams and aspirations, who doesn't need to use cash as a tool to deploy that into their thing, they probably want to buy a house, pay the bank back over 30 years, see if they can pay it back a little bit faster, get the 500 likes, have the feeling of security, safety, maybe borrow against it in the future if they dare, but be forced to repay. You know, I spoke to a client this morning with a business loan. I'm like, guys, no matter if you're profitable or you're losing money, the bank don't care. They are going to direct debit you for that money. It's the same thing with a property, like ping, ping, ping. They will always take from you that money. You have to pay it back. And we don't think about how we couldn't afford the property. That's why we had to use so much debt to do it. So we think about, can I afford the repayments? So with a business owner, they get the same teaching, like just get as much debt as you can and buy as big of a house as you can. Well, maybe the world doesn't need you to do that. Maybe it needs you to live within a certain amount of debt and take the capital that you would be paying off on that mortgage and reinvesting it back into the business, scaling, going bigger, having more impact. And so I think a lot of what I've seen is a lot of entrepreneurial type people have got stuck in a mortgage, or they, as soon as they start doing well in business, it's like, I'm going to buy a rental property. We think, why don't we just scale the business up? Or why don't we, buy a commercial building or something else? Oh, don't know, I haven't learned about that. Okay, that's cool. So we don't need to rush into getting a rental. Let's look at other options that you may have. It could be shares, etc. So there is no like hard and fast rule. I just think that the blanket teaching of the sooner you buy a house, the better. Get on the ladder. Property always goes up. Those are three pieces that aren't true for everybody, and we need to warn people that it's not true for.
I love it. I mean, financial mistakes and lessons learned is such a area of expertise. People are experts in making financial mistakes and learning from them.
Yeah.
Are you also like, you've got a PhD in that?
Oh, for sure. I've had a $15,000 credit card. I should know better. I'm an accountant. I understand how this stuff works. I've invested in things that have, stripped the money, like completely lost it.
Yeah.
I love betting. People don't, why is an accountant gambling? You shouldn't be doing that. I like risk. I'm comfortable with it. I try and learn, okay, what's too much.
Yeah.
But I think that's how we learn. And I think,
what's the most expensive mistake that you've made?
Probably not investing in myself earlier, So I had an idea to build a company to be able to help people write a will. I built the whole thing, made a website. I don't even know if I was 20, and I get to the market and just shit myself. I'm like, oh, what do you do? How do you get in front of people? What if I was so scared, what if somebody, comes back and says, oh, this is illegal? I could have just got some legal advice and done it. And, years later, I've got a meeting at my accounting office with my old boss, and a meeting with, I think, the public trust, and they're talking about, oh, we're creating an online way for people to do wills. I'm like, oh, mint. And I think, or maybe they were buying a business that were doing it, and I'm thinking, okay, I should have carried on with that, but I didn't. Yeah. I had another idea, and that was around, you come to this website, it was called BizNest, and it was the logo was like a golden nest with an egg in it, and you would get your branding, and you would get your logo, you would get your website, you would get your company set up, you would set you up on Xero, everything that you need, like the nest to get your business started. Built the whole thing again. I'm like, oh, I probably just should play it safe and be this chartered accountant guy and keep doing that. So I've been entrepreneurial for a long time. I was selling feijoas at 17 at the front of my flat when I was at university, and just been very, very resourceful. And it took a long time into my 20s to then go, I actually am that guy. And I probably didn't really go on my business journey until 28, when I burnt the boats, quit my accounting job, and was like, I can't come back. Like I know I've got these things in me. I've got to have a crack. I've got to go back to broke. I've got to live at home. I can't afford my rent anymore, and I'll just figure it out. But I'll come out the other side of it, and 10 years later, I've got $1 million worth of assets and stuff, and you go, wow, I was capable of it.
Yeah. What was the biggest mistake that you've made?
It's just not doing it
sooner. Not investing it earlier, not investing in yourself earlier.
Not trusting my gut that I knew, deep down I knew I could do this.
Yeah.
People would say, oh, but everything led you to that, which is fine. I get that too.
Yeah.
But I just kept delaying being the person that I knew that I really was.
What are the mistakes that you've made in the financial sector that made you really change the way that you look at money?
Just going back to the other financial mistakes, I know you'll like this one. I sold 0.4 of a Bitcoin to go to Vegas. Okay? So that's now worth probably 80,000 New Zealand dollars. I took that instead of taking money out of term deposits and cash and stuff, and was like, oh, maybe I'll take this. I sold some of it, took that, had an amazing time in America with my mates and rinsed, cash in Vegas, and then was like, oh, that was dumb. I probably shouldn't have sold the asset to then have the money to have a fun time in America.
But what about like having a good time?
Well, yeah, that's, great, but it's now an $80,000 mistake, right? And could be even more in the future. But the point being that it led me to learn what's a cash lake. Well, a cash lake is having a lake of cash that instead of selling your assets, you go, I'll take from the cash and I'll use that, rather than selling off my assets. And I think that is, you've got to go through some of these things to then look at them differently. So now I quite, an older version of Luke would be like, never have money sitting there, invest it, get it, get it into something, get it growing. And I see this obsession with people. They'll save $2,000 for an emergency fund, and it's like, what can I invest it into? I'm like, just let it sit there.
Yeah.
And so I've done so much stuff like that, and by going through it, you get these lessons: credit cards and offsetting mortgages, and trying to the arching principle of it all is like you're trying to get to Z without doing the alphabet, and you're trying to get somewhere faster and find the cheat code. And I think a lot of us are very good at trying to do that, and then we have to come to a stage in our life where we realize it doesn't work. We've got to do the reps.
If someone is listening going, I have $500 to invest in, and I want to really change my life with that $500, what is your advice would be for them?
Well, this would probably sound brutal, but like, why do you believe that you can change your life with $500? I know that that's not the answer people would expect, and I can give you... What
mindset do they need to have? Because in theory, like, you've got lived experience for starting and scaling a business and actually growing yourself. But you've had to have your own mindset shift. You've had a mindset shift from scarcity to abundance. And I really want to delve deeper into that subject.
So I'll tell you what to do with the 500 first.
Yeah, and then we'll go into the scarcity.
So with the 500, find a counsellor and spend 300 of it on a counsellor and find out what keeps stopping you from progressing in your life. Yeah. And spend that money and do the session, and you've probably got 3 years of work right there from that one counselling session. Why am I like this? And tell them everything. Get as much out of that session as you can. With the other 200, commit to a gym membership or something where every month you're going to spend money to be held accountable to go, I need to look after myself. And then bang, you're on a 3-year journey there, But too many of us are like, is it Bitcoin? Is it Ethereum? Is it a drop shipping? Is it a course?
Yeah.
Invest it into yourself. And most of us haven't actually done any work to go, why do I think like this? What is this? When I started spending money, I spent $4,000 once on an e-commerce course to then open it and go, oh, whoa, it's massive. I don't want to do this. This is too hard. I'm like, bang, thank you, $4,000 lesson, never get that money back. I'm like, just learned something about myself. What a dickhead. What were you doing? You're looking for another shortcut. Yeah. You're smarter than this, man.
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't have believed that it was as simple as logging into this course to learn how to do e-com. Of course it's going to be hard. Of course it's going to have a newsletter, and you're going to have to find the product and go to China and all this stuff. I'm like, okay, put it down to another lesson. So counsellor and your health.
That's so funny. I would not have expected you to say counsellor and your health. I would have expected you to say, you know what, use that $500 to make another $10,000 by doing this, this, and this, and this. Like, that's what people say.
But I have those answers.
I like that.
Yeah, if you want them. But I think for business owners, our earning potential is limited by how we see ourselves, and your income can't outgrow your own self-improvement. So we know then the answer is to invest money back into ourselves in different formats, and we've got to figure out what that is. And I reckon the low-hanging fruit for a lot of people is getting your ass out of bed and getting your body moving, and secondly, sitting in front of somebody who can help you to see what your blind spots are and see what's holding you back. Because you start breaking some of those things that are holding you back in business, then bang, you unlock all these different chapters, and you don't even know that they're there yet until that person can remove those blockages for you.
Do you think you can get to know yourself by doing a counsellor session, or do you think you can do it by other ways?
Well, I think you spend the $500 with the counsellor, start with, and realise, I need more money because I need more sessions. I'm more complicated than an hour with a counsellor.
I love this.
That's going to force you to go back to the market, add more value, make more money, and then go back to the counsellor until you run your race with that and go, okay, I think I've got enough here.
Is this what you did in your life?
To a degree, yeah. I mean, I've succinctly put it, but I've done different forms of counselling and sort of, different courses and talked to different people. I would look at everything as counsel, I would look at talking to a mentor as a form of counselling. Hey, here's what I'm struggling with. And I just have those convos now. Instead of being like, I need to turn up to this meeting and pretend I've got all my shit sorted. I'll be like, hey man, I know you're really good at this. I'm struggling with this. What do you think I should do? And they're like, oh, okay, well, you could do this. And I think, oh, that guy gave me the answers, or that lady gave me the answers. One lady said to me, you need to focus on your strengths. I'm like, oh, that's cool. What the hell? What are my strengths? And then she's like, you need to go and do a strengths assessment and then figure that out. I'm like, okay, did that. And I'm like, well, what do I do with this? You need to get a coach to help you use them. Who's a coach in this space? Find this lady. Okay, start, working with her. Hey, I'll meet with you monthly. Help me understand this. I need to get better at it. Yes, but I think I've condensed it down to the answer being go to a counsellor, because I think it's the same sort of thing.
All right, you guys, I want to tell you about one resource that I look into and check all the time. It's helped me in my own business journey, and it's made me a better business owner, a better podcaster, helped me stay on top of all the business news that are happening in New Zealand. It's called NZBusiness Magazine. It's one of the New Zealand's oldest and most trusted sources for business stories, insights, and analysis for SME owners and leaders. So we've partnered together to help bring these kind of conversations like this one to more Kiwi entrepreneurs across New Zealand. So if you want to stay on top of what's happening in business, visit nzbusiness.co.nz today. Hello, thanks for watching this video. Quick note, have you subscribed? Over 90% of people who are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify or on Apple are not subscribed or following. Please do so now. It's so simple. The button will be around the screen somewhere. You either hit subscribe or hit the follow button or leave me a review. That will help me so much, helps me grow as a channel and support my work. So I really appreciate it. Okay, back to the episode. Yeah. So scarcity and abundance. I'd love to understand from your point of view, from your own lived experience of those two things. Have you had the scarcity mindset and have you had the abundance mindset?
Yes. Now, I grew up in a family of scarcity, and that can sound probably a bit offensive, but I recently had my mum on the podcast and I was talking to her about this, but mum's worldview was that sort of like money is hard to come by. You've got to be very careful with it. Eat everything on your plate, which I'm not disagreeing with. But you eventually start to learn like, oh, maybe these things aren't fit for purpose for me, like in my now life that I live. So, you would never have a Coro membership. You would never get your car valeted. You would never pay someone to clean it. You could be doing that yourself. What a waste of money. And that's kind of what I grew up listening to. And there's no shade on my family. It was just like, we didn't have a lot. So but what it taught me is be very resourceful, Then I'm turning up at 17 to uni going, oh, we got a Feijoa. And I think people want to buy that. Oh, I'll put them in a New World bag. I'll go off to New World, steal a few of their bags. Shout out New World, sorry. And bang, I've got a box at the front. Okay, put $3 in. I'm like, sweet, just made $36.
Yeah.
So I kind of flipping from, it seems like we don't have a lot, but it seems like other people do. What do they know that I don't? And then I just keep asking myself, like, what do they know that I don't? And now I still practice this. I was in Gold Coast recently. I spend the money. I go up the Q1 tower. And do I need to go up there? Like, no, but I'm teaching myself. I'm looking around. I'm like, man, who owns that crane? Who's financing that building? Whoa, who built this stuff? Like, oh, there's someone down there doing swim lessons.
Do you go and ask them? Like, do you go and
No, so
curious?
I'm just testing myself. Like, how are they, how have they made sense of doing that? And why am I thinking so small? Why am I worried about what it costs to come up here when they're building potentially $1 billion tower? Where's that money coming from? How do they know they're going to make the money back? And the more I asked myself those questions as I went through my journey, the more I'm like, oh, we just teach people in New Zealand to basically think that there's nothing out there and that wealth can't be created and that everything's hard and it's hard to come by. And I just think that's a really dangerous frame to teach people with, because then we keep so many people stuck. And I learned as I just keep going that there is just so much out there and there's more, like we're capable of so much more than we realize.
So you've had the scarcity. How did you shift can you walk me through the shift between scarcity and abundance? Like the moments that you realized, and then like you were talking about the Feijoa tree. That's an abundance mindset that you probably weren't aware of. But you ended up having that, like I'm going to go and make something useful out of those feijoas.
Yeah.
How did that translate into where you are today? Because you wouldn't be as successful today if you did not have like mechanics, like stuff happening in your brain, like thought processes, like almost like an AI workflow.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people get stuck at a workflow and there's like a clog and then there's like a whole lot of junk and then it puts them back, a few steps backward, like almost like self-sabotage. So I'd love to understand your journey there.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint like one thing. My brain is giving me like a number of examples and I'll touch on them briefly.
Go for it, yeah.
But I do think you've got to, like, you make a decision. I think that's the answer, is you decide, I'm sick of this. It could be living in credit card debt. It could be thinking scarcely. It could be someone telling you, that's too much and you, or too little or whatever, or like you got to buy a house and that's the thing that'll, stop, just let me figure some of this stuff out. And I had a girlfriend once, and I would say if we were going to get something to eat, I'd be like, oh, that's so expensive. And she's like, what? No, why? Why is it expensive? I'm like, oh, I don't know. And I couldn't answer it. I'm just like, oh, it just seems really expensive to pay $18 for a sandwich. She's like, well, shut up, I'll buy it for you. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, well, why does she not think it's expensive? And the answers are in the questions, is what someone said to me on my podcast recently. And I think it's a good thing. We don't ask enough questions of ourselves. Like, why do we think $100,000 is a lot of money? Why do we think $1 million is? And then we realize, we don't actually ask ourselves. So we just let society and people in our nurturing and our upbringing tell us things. And, I would look at Christian people and they'd donate 10% of their income. I'd think, what are they doing? Like, what the hell? Why are they giving away, like, you've already got to pay tax. You're going to give 10% more? And then I'd think, why are they doing that? Like, but why do they seem really happy? And I granted, there's some bad things happen in religion and whatnot, but I'm like, how can they have the conviction to let that money go? I would then see a busker and I would think, well, like they're making more money than some people that are going to work. I'm like, that's interesting. We're told that the busker, has nothing and can't make any money, but they're standing at the intersection making cash. I'm sitting here thinking it can't be done. I'm like, that dude effectively knows more than I do. Like, this is strange. And so I just started questioning everything.
Yes.
And then just looking and listening to other people and seeing what they are achieving and thinking, well, if they can, well, why not me? So I do think you've got to rewire your brain a little bit. And then just, I've gone to the extent of, setting up affirmations and stuff. I'll record them on my phone. I would listen to them. And one that I had was that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Like,
what did you say to yourself?
I just think like, I'm big, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I can solve problems. I add a lot of value to the world. The world can't not notice that. Money's attracted to me. Money exchanges hands when value exceeds price. I love my partner. I love my family. Like just all these sorts of things, right? And just bang, just loop it in the brain.
Every single day? Do you listen to this?
I was to help retrain.
To help you, yeah.
And now every now and then, like I don't do it anymore, but every now and then I will. Like if my brain is being a little bit anxious or whatever, or keeps worrying about something, I might stop. And then I just start thinking, I'm big, I'm strong, I'm powerful, I can solve these. Look at all these problems. Look how far you've come. Why are you worried about this problem? This problem could lead to the next solution that could lead to the next chapter of your life. And just, so you've got to do a bit of that, I think, to help retrain yourself.
I love that because I was thinking about some stuff over the weekend that I am, I've got no skills. This thought that came to me that what sort of skills do I have? How useful am I really? What have I really achieved? And I was reminded to make a list of the things that I have accomplished recently, maybe 10, but I ended up having more than 10.
Yeah.
And when I was typing them up, I was like, oh my gosh, I did that.
Pretty good, yeah.
And I thought I'll turn it into a LinkedIn post. So I shared that on LinkedIn, and I had a lot of really nice comments said to me that, oh my gosh, this is such a cool list. Like, you've done that in 1 year. Like, that is incredible.
Yeah.
And I was, in awe of it. And I just understood that.
It's easy to forget how far we've come.
Yeah. We are really, like, our brains and our body and our psychology and our biology is so geared easily towards the negative, towards the lacking and the scarcity, that we have to do so much work, almost like climbing a mountain, to get out of that.
Yeah.
Actively. And if you don't, you will, like if you didn't do those recordings, reminding yourself, it's just so hard to get back up. And you have to do that. This is like a non-negotiable.
Yeah.
Like one of the secrets to success, I feel, is to be your best cheerleader and remind yourself, be your best friend. Yeah, and be that. So it's fascinating. I think that is the scarcity to abundance mindset of someone listening, thinking, I really want to be able to get out of that space. You can by perhaps investing in yourself, speaking to a mentor, a counselor, but you could be your own counselor, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, you know your problems more than somebody else. External person's probably going to help you see them faster.
Yeah.
But you can just spot, like you might be like, I have a bad relationship with money. You said earlier, like you hate numbers. I'd just say, well, like stop saying that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and so it's those little things that we let hold ourselves back. What if someone doesn't pay me? What if they do?
Yeah.
Like, and so, I talk to clients about this just every week. I look at the things that I was working with one today about, we're going to increase our prices. And I said, look, you're going to get objections. So write down before you get these objections what you're going to tell them so that you're not flustered on the phone and you can be better prepared.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like our mind's going to keep feeding us that we're not, capable when we are. We're capable of so much more than we realize. And, a lot of people won't vibe with that and they'll go, that doesn't work. Well, they go home at 6 p.m. and put the news on every day. They're feeding themselves negative inputs. So they're doing the same thing, but they're doing it negatively. I got to a point where I'm like, man, I just need to put positive stuff into my brain, positive in, and positive started coming out.
That's true. Oh my gosh. The times I can tell you that when I'd start to think like, success comes easy and deals come easy and things happen easily. Literally the next day, like people just ring me and want stuff. I was like, how did that happen?
Your brain starts to see it and then you validate what you're seeing. But I mean, I'm under no disillusion or don't want to disillusion people that it's as simple as like telling yourself something.
It's not just positive thinking, but
no, you've got to take the right actions as well.
Actually, you really need to be ready to receive, like if you're a business owner, entrepreneur and wanting good deals and breaks, you need to be working behind the scenes, like building the foundation of your business, and then have the good attitude and the positive thinking and the almost like the disposition of you wanting to become better. And when you've got the foundation ready for your business, like your systems, how you're going to service the client, when they start coming at you, you're ready.
Yeah.
Your mindset is good, your attitude is good, your back end is good, your foundations are there. So like you can actually have a successful business. But if you're pretty shit, excuse my French.
Yeah, I agree.
Like it's not going to help.
The example that I give just very quickly is that we're all running our businesses as the emotionally invested in it person. Sometimes we need to step back and go, if I had a CEO running this business, what would I expect of them? If they come to me and said, oh, hey, we're running out of money and 3 of our main customers haven't paid, we'd be like, well, have you asked them to pay? Nah, I just kind of feel a bit bad about reaching out to them. We'd be like, what are you doing? Do you want to earn your salary or not? So it's very clear when we put ourselves, pull ourselves out of our shoes and go, what will we expect of the CEO? And often we are the CEO in our businesses. So then we can go a step further and go, would the CEO of New Zealand, would they do this? Like, what would they do? And put ourselves in their shoes to go, okay, how would I do something? So, we get best example is all the time businesses with databases and they say, no, we don't do email. Email's really annoying. And I say, okay, like, what do you think would happen if the new person that starts at Grab a Seat rolls into Air New Zealand and goes, oh, guys, I see we send these emails out each day with the Grab a Seat deals. I'm not really into marketing emails. I find them quite annoying. We're going to turn those off. They'll be like, okay, that's cool. You're fired, because that's driving 300% revenue growth from last year or whatever. It would be normal. But in our business, we're like, oh, nah, a bit worried about what I put in the email, what I say. Oh, well, seems like we're making too many offers if we do that. It's like, you haven't even tried anything. You have no data. So you're not fit for purpose to even have these thoughts at the moment. Let somebody else make the thoughts for you.
I want to talk about tracking net worth. I think you talk about that, right?
Yeah.
You want to track. Okay, so I'm going to read this out. So business owners track revenue. Business owners can track revenue, expenses, and profits every month, but almost none track their personal net worth. You say that this is the single biggest habit that builds clarity and confidence, and the truth is that what gets measured gets managed. So how has tracking your own net worth every month shaped your life?
Well, humans love progress, right? So normally we don't even think about how much progress we're actually making. Now, financial progress is measured in your net worth. Now, I'm not saying that that's all that we're worth, but that's just the business/financial principle. Assets minus liabilities. If you want to borrow money from the bank, they will say, what is your financial position? And you have to write it all down. So my teaching is do it every month, because a business does, and they've got to report to, the NZX listed companies have to, report on what their balance sheet is, etc. Then why don't we do it? And why it's important is because you can then start to see your assets moving up and to the right, hopefully, your debt decreasing, and then your net worth slowly increasing. So, you might do this from being a negative equity, where you're basically like you owe more than you own, and you can see yourself, okay, now I'm back to zero. Okay, now what? Okay, well, I just got to keep doing these same things, and now I slowly start buying some shares or saving some cash, and you might eventually buy your property, and then what's the debt on that? And you're building up data that you can look back on. So 12 months later, when you feel like, I haven't really achieved much financially, you're like, actually, I've got data from 12 months ago. Oh, wow. My net worth actually increased by 13% or whatever. You didn't know that if you weren't tracking that.
Can I backtrack and ask you, what is net worth?
Okay, sorry. So assets minus liabilities. So it's our assets are what we own. So think like cash, shares, KiwiSaver, property, equipment and stuff, whatever we term our assets. Liabilities, debt and money that we owe to people. It might be mortgage, it might be personal finance, it might be credit cards. Assets minus liabilities equals equity or net worth. Yeah.
Got you. And so, and you need to do that every single month.
Well, I teach that, to get people closer to their money as well. So, so that you're routinely every month going, right, where am I actually at financially? Have I made progress from last month? Then you're going to have better conversations. Where am I going in 30 days, 90 days, 1 year, 5 years? Am I making progress? It's life-changing because we don't get taught to do it.
How do you, like we have a podcast. Does podcast have a net worth?
I guess you could assign a value to assets.
Yeah, because you also do, you've got a podcast as well, and you've got two. So wouldn't you add that as part of your net worth?
Well, technically you could, but I wouldn't. I'd be keeping it simple and going, okay, like the traditional accounting method of assets, liabilities.
Yeah.
But some businesses will start to value their brand and their IP and things, and but that's getting. That then just makes it too hard. So I'm just saying for everyday people, keep it simple.
Gotcha.
Because a lot of people forget that they're actually making progress financially, but their progress is clearing their mortgage debt. And because we have so many people that have a mortgage or have debt, they forget that actually their loan repayment will go out, but they forget, I actually built up 10, 20 grand worth of equity on paper over the last 12 months. I see this all the time with people who offset their mortgage. They'll take money out of their business.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of clearing debt faster and faster, but they feel like they've got no money.
Yeah.
I'm like, you've got no money because you gave it back to the bank. So you've built up your equity on paper, your net worth.
What changes do people need to start seeing after a year of doing it, do you think? What changes do people need to see?
Well,
sorry, I'm gonna say that again because I was sort of mumbled. Yeah. What changes do people need to start to see after a year of doing this?
Do they need to see or do they see?
Start to see.
Okay, so what they start to see is that they're building up data of where they've come from, but they are getting clearer on the progress that they're actually making. And 12 times instead of 0, they're having a look at all these asset values. They're then learning more about their KiwiSaver balance, their debt decreasing, and normally they feel more in control of their overall financial situation because they're overlaying it as well with, okay, so for this next 4 weeks or next pay cycle, what do I have coming in? What do I have going out? If I've got a gap there, what am I going to do with that gap? And you're starting to make conscious decisions to try and increase your net worth.
It sounds like a good thing to do, and I think definitely like when a business owners they look at their revenue and expenses and create the tax. Like this is what I look for, but I never really thought about tracing the net worth. So. And
I'm talking about it personally as well, not like just your business assets.
Yeah, a personal
net
worth.
Yeah. But I mean, your business is sort of, if you're using the likes of Xero, it's kind of tracking your net worth at any one time anyway, because it knows what assets you have and liabilities. We just don't teach business owners how to read those reports.
You talk about treating yourself as a business, and you hope that your money works out for you, but you need to have systems in place to, like, you need to run your household as a business. That's a really interesting way of looking at business and finance. How do you do that? How do you run your household as a business?
Well, the principle there being that in business you have money coming in and you have your expenses. That gives you your net profit, and you're going to pay tax on that. If you run out of cash at some stage in your business, you're in trouble, because you've then got to finance it. You've got to figure out, where am I going to get it from? How come this is happening? And we've got to solve the underlying problems in the business. So business owners learn about this. Individually, I'm saying an individual that's not in business can learn the same concepts. What do you have coming in? That's your cash in. What are your cash outs? That's going to be your difference. And you can start to track, like a business would. Oh, we're going backwards. We're going to run out of money here. Okay, that doesn't mean go out and get a credit card or get buy now, pay later. It means something's broken in here. So instead of financing my gap with debt, I'm going to fix the underlying problem. And it could be you need to increase your income, which Kiwi people don't like hearing about. It could be that you need to get rid of 4 of the 7 subscriptions that you have that you don't lose, and those are actually chewing up your time and you're spending them watching TV instead of generating extra income or whatever. And so you're treating yourself like a business and a business owner who every month has to understand, do we have enough money to pay the bills?
I hear a lot of super rich people talk about using debt to finance your business. I mean, we've touched on many different things, by the way, in this episode, and this episode is going to be useful for business owners, founders, and actually everyday people. This question is more for entrepreneurs who are really curious about, how do you use debt to get rich, make lots of money? I mean, is that even possible to start? Because I've seen it on YouTube channels, and real people be like, I didn't use any more money, I just use debt to finance a business. What's your take on that?
Well, going back to property, that's what Kiwi people have done with property for years, right? Instead of saving up money to buy the property, they use the bank's money. That's not how they'd see it. They'd be like, no, that's just how it is. Well, no, that is why? Because you can't afford it, so then you're using the bank's money, and eventually you pay it back. But in that time, money becomes worth less because we keep creating more, and there's inflation. We have these economic cycles, but the boomers that say, oh, well, I bought my house in 1980 for 300 grand and now it's worth 1.2 million. It's like, you didn't add 4x value to it. The money lost its value. That this is just what's happened in the system. So that's, I think, where the teaching comes from, is use other people's money because they subconsciously know that it's losing value. Now in business, it can be very dangerous. You can be using debt in a risky type of asset or entity, and you can end up leveraged and in more trouble than if you're just trying to do it out of working capital. But for a lot of people, they need it. So let's say a business who is getting into e-commerce, and they sell their first 100 units and they go, oh, I made a bit of money here, there's something here. Then they go, oh, I want to make a bigger order, and they go, well, you can order 1,000 or you can order 10,000. I don't have the money for 10,000. Well, if you borrow some money from over there, you can now get 10,000, you get it at a cheaper rate. Okay, let's order the 10,000. Now, one of two things could happen. You get the 10,000, you go, wicked, we got it at a cheaper rate. Then you've got to sell it all to then be able to clear your debt. You've got your profit, and then it's like, oh, did we go again? Or in that meantime, someone came along and was like, nah, we've got the same product, we've got it at a different price, and you can't sell your 10,000. Oh, how am I going to make my money back to be able to pay the debt back and sort of keep the thing going? So I think it's a simple illustration of debt. You might have an engineer or a civil engineer, and they go, well, to get my next contract that's into the next league, I need 2 diggers. Well, I'm going to have to borrow 500 grand. Okay, who's going to finance me 500 grand? An asset finance company, maybe Caterpillar. And so you can't do it. You can't enter that next chapter of business without the debt. So that's why I think you need good financial advice or an accountant to help you understand these things. Someone that's been there, done it, understands debt, the cost of debt. There's very dangerous debt in New Zealand. It gets advertised to you on social media. You can access this business funding. They call it business funding, and it's debt, and it's at 20-something%. And it's like giving someone a giant credit card in their business and going, here you go, we've just extended the runway for you. And they know that you're probably going to struggle to pay it back. But they're playing a numbers game where they're lending out so much that they know, okay, some will fail, But if we can keep the whole thing going, we should get most of our capital back, and we make some good money on the interest in the meantime. So you've got to be very careful. And I don't want to name any of those names, but hopefully people can go away and learn, like, okay, if I'm being told, like, you can access this in 5 minutes, it's a little bit like having a drug dealer standing on a corner and you going, I probably shouldn't talk to them, you know? But someone's going to be tempted to do it.
Yeah. In terms of your business, you started and scaled your Next Advisory. This is considered your company. I'd love to maybe briefly the starting and scaling of it. Like, what was the most difficult part of starting that business, and how were you able to get it to where it is today?
So I'm an activator, so everything's easy for me to start, but it's hard for an activator to keep going. And when it's really hard to get going is when you can see that this is working, but you just want it to happen faster. So we started getting some clients, and I could see that this is this is going to work. But I just want it to happen faster. And I'm just busting my ass, and I'm driving to people's house at Mangarewa at 9 p.m. to go to a meeting to try and sign up a client. And eventually, you get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't need to do that anymore. And the whole thing sort of flips. We've gone from chasing people around trying to get clients to, we'll decide if we're going to take this person on as a client or not. Very amazing place to get to, and not, probably very unique in New Zealand, but it's because we're building what we've set out to build, and we're not trying to build, the next PwC or whatever. But there is that chasm when you're crossing it, or that period in there where you're like, I know I'm on the right path, but this sucks. And I've taught myself to love it because I've gone through it so many more times. So I'll start, I was 52 weeks into Money Mail writing it before I started recording the podcast. And I'm like, I need to sit down and record 52 podcasts to catch up, because I'm not going to skip the 52. I've got to start at number 1. My brain is like, that sucks, man. And I'm like, I know it sucks. I'm like, let's go, baby. Let's do 5 at a time. So I'd sit there, bang, 5, bash them out. I feel good. Maybe I'll do 6, I'll do 7. Sometimes I could only do 3. But I'm like, this is where I'm like beating other people. This is where I'm winning. This is where I know that in time I'll look back and go, practicing that skill is so powerful.
What is the best thing that you've done for your business that have helped you?
One thing that Kiwi people don't do, they don't market themselves. They don't market their business. They don't spend any marketing money. The average spend in the accounting industry used to be said to be $1,000 in a year. We probably dump 6 figures into advertising Next Advisory every year. That would blow people's minds, especially in the accounting industry. What a waste of money. You could just borrow money and buy someone else's fee book. Well, I don't want a bunch of old clients that I don't want to deal with. I want to win people over that I want to spend time with. Marketing is a tax-deductible expense, 100% tax-deductible, and it builds up your asset base, and an asset can be sold with a tax-free capital gain sale. So it's one of the only things that we have in New Zealand that we all seem to shy away from and go, I don't want to spend money on that. We all know who the warehouse is. How come? Because they made us aware of it. They spent money on marketing. All these big brands.
Briscoes.
Yeah, bingo. Going back into stepping into the shoes of another CEO. Well, how did Briscoes decide to wrap the Herald every week? Like, they spend the money on it. So why are we so scared to spend money to invest into marketing, our businesses and ourselves? And the more I've leaned into that, and I'm constantly pushing myself to do more of it, it comes back around. And that's, again, it's abundance. It's like, I'll let this money go now. I know it'll come back.
It will come back. Where did you, so you would say that marketing was the asset, the thing that did really well for your business. Like, this is how you scaled. But at the start, you would have to like bring people, like you were saying, and reach out and can I just take you really, really, really early in the days when you were trying to get your first clients? And this is always the biggest question for us in the podcast, because everyone is a bit of a startup, and if they're not a startup, they're trying to make their startup scaled. But at the early days, what was it like? How hard was it? Was it like?
Oh, it's hard. Like, it's really hard. And like, it's easy to say.
It's easy now, yeah.
Man, it sucks.
If I was sitting down with you 10 years ago when you were starting out, what would be the advice that you would love to give to someone in your shoes back in the day?
Just keep going and make sure you want it, and make sure you know why you want it. And I'll give you an example. Like, I had to move home because I couldn't afford rent and stuff. I had no money. I was resourceful. I found house sitting. I lived in Waiheke for free. Like, I was always looking. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. How do you live in Auckland for free? There must be a way.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky that my mind's like that. I found that. I now holiday at a beach house that's free. and they let me live there because I used to look after the house years ago. But it came from having nothing, and now I've got abundance. I just see it everywhere. I would leave home at 5 a.m. I would have a power blended shake with banana and stuff. I'd probably wake my parents up. I'd be smacking a bit of caffeine. I'd drive 40 minutes to the gym. I'd hit the gym, get the body right. And then I'd be like, right, we just got to go for the day. Let's go. Just go as hard as we can until, I've done the meetings and trying to make some stuff happen. And nothing's happening. It's just like, why isn't it happening? And then I'd look at traffic and go, I don't want to sit in traffic. So I'd work till 7. Sometimes I'd sit in a free library. I couldn't afford an office. And then I would get home and my parents may have cooked me dinner. I remember walking in one time and it was nearly 9 o'clock and my dinner was just sitting on the table and they'd already eaten. And we really liked, and still do as a family, having dinner together. Amazing time of my life where I get to sort of really reconnect with them. And I just kind of got the sense of like, oh, we're getting a bit sick of this, man. Like you're just sort of turning up here and we're, and I just sat at the table on my own eating. And then I'm like, I need to do more work. And one day I said to my parents, I was like, oh, I've just kind of had this breakthrough. This has happened. They're like, oh, really glad, mate, because like just a bit worried about you, eh? I just don't know if you can keep this up. We don't know if you can keep going this hard. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm like, man, what do I look like, or what's happening here? And I know that people in my family and stuff were concerned, but I was just so dialed in. I'm like, F it, like I'm gonna make this work. I'm like, no one is stopping me. And I'm very lucky to, I guess, have that drive and to have that hunger. But now I'm at a point where I've like, I get up in the morning, I could chill. I could sell my accounting practice and be like, cool, I'm probably actually like pretty good now. And sort of coast. And I don't want to. But like only I can figure that out why. And there's times where I get up and I think, I could just piss around today. And then I lay on the couch and I'm like,
this is not fun.
What are you doing, man? I'm like, this ain't like, you're not rolling shit. What are you doing? Get up. Get something going, like make something happen. And I have to force, like, so now you could argue, like, I don't need the drive anymore, but it's still there, but I get to be very deliberate about what I choose to use it on. And so now I can take what I learned in that time and go, all right, for this next 3 months, I'm going to deploy it into this. And now I can like button off the gas a little bit, or I've really got to figure this podcast sponsorship out. Let's like nail this. Okay, I've got to build this event or whatever it is, or I've got to get this email out. And I've taught myself how to be able to sit down and be like, get in control of Luke and be like, get off the couch, sit down and get it done. But I don't think I could do that if it wasn't for this period. So my point for those people who are struggling at the moment or going through this is you need this period, because this period is what sets you apart from those who aren't willing to do it. And what you feel now is the pain of it not working, but what you realize in the future is that pain is what you needed, and you can lean on it in the future and you go, oh, this doesn't feel as bad because I don't need to do it for 2 years. I just need to do it for 2 months or 2 days. And you're like, oh, this is epic. Thank God I did it back then to feel that.
I love that. What are you working on in the next few months, or what are you pouring your energy and your money and your resources in the next 10 to 12, 18 months? Yeah,
I've got to go through like another iteration of figuring that out, because one of my goals is to help 100,000 Kiwi people. Built the accounting practice to kind of where we wanted it to be. Me and my business partner are going away soon and doing some more planning about what the next 5 years looks like. So once that's done, that gives me more clarity. And then we just start, like I've just reset myself and go for it. It's going to be interesting because soon I would have helped 100,000 Kiwi people. Like I've done that. And then like I've stacked some money, I've done the business thing, and it's like, oh man, you're 38. Like, you got a long way to go, bro. What's next? So I have some overarching things that I'm working towards that pull me forward. But as I've worked through my journey, the next chapter or project becomes a bit clearer. So often I'm not goal focused, I'm more like process focused. If I send 2 emails a week, if I do keep the change, if I interview this person, it unlocks something else, and then it's easier to connect the dots looking back. I think that's Steve Jobs, and you start to see like, that project or that wouldn't have come about if I didn't do those things. So I know if I stay directionally correct, the answers become a bit clearer. But for me, the 2 things are like, if I can help people get better at business, then we have a better economy and a better country. If I can help people get better at their finance, they can be better employees. They might be our next entrepreneurs, but they have a better life. That creates a better New Zealand. Then that's probably what I can use my skill set to help the country with.
And then next minute you'll be sitting at the Prime Minister's office discussing how you can be his advisor.
Well, yeah, there would definitely be, we'll have to do some checks into my backlog of content and be like, dude, you can't be associated. You've mugged us off too many times, and there's so many skeletons in the closet. So I don't know if I'll ever get to that level. But
I love it. Well, we could talk for hours, and I think it's been such a delight to have you on, and such a cool conversation. And well done, congratulations. Very proud of the work that you've done, thank you for keeping on doing it and inspiring Kiwis and making a difference. And I hope that you continue to go from strength to strength.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So until next time.